The countdown is on, but you're not doing it alone. This is Countdown to College, your weekly guide from Education Quest Foundation, here to help you plan, apply, and pay for college one step at a time. I'm your host, Gage, and today I am joined by Jason Combs, Director of Technology and Marketing for Education Quest Foundation. Hi, Jason. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me today. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, so we're actually talking about something that's becoming kind of increasingly more important as social media becomes a bigger part of our lives. And that is the importance of just cleaning up your social media before college. So I think we should just dive in. Jason, why is it important for students to clean up their social media before applying to college?
Yeah, I think that's a question a lot of people ask themselves is why do I need to invest the time to do this? Does it matter? And it really does. It's no longer just about looking at a student when they're looking for admissions. What are their grades? What are their test scores? Do they meet minimum requirements? Way back when I was going to college, there used to be these graph things, and you fell into your test score and your grades, and as long as you were in the green, then you were admitted, and that was, pretty much it. And a lot of colleges have gone to what they consider holistic admissions. And in that, they're looking at the entirety of the student. So they're looking at things outside the classroom that the student did. And these schools are a lot better at utilizing the technology that's there, which means they're doing searches and they've got programs that will go out there and scrape social media platforms for students and find stuff out there that the students just aren't thinking about. So it's just a way to make sure that when you're looking at admissions, they're looking at the student that you really are and not, you know, a single decision that you made on a day or something like that.
Hmm.
Scholarships also are doing the same thing. There's a lot of scholarships that are saying when we're getting down to the final two and can't decide between candidate A and candidate B, they might start searching those uh, social profiles, Facebook, Instagram, things like that. The other thing that I thought came up interesting with me and helping my daughter was looking at that whole process of finding a roommate. And you start thinking about like who's going to be a good person to share a very small living space with.
Yeah.
If you're social, because they're all on Instagram, they're out there finding roommates there, and it's like if your Instagram is you being really into a sport or really into a type of music or something, and then you get there and your roommate and you are not on the same page because you're really just not. It's not that big for your life, and it just kind of look that way from your social profiles. I think that can cause some friction and stuff for your first year.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I actually found my roommate through Instagram because I wasn't having much luck with the roommate finder. And so I had someone reach out to me and I was like, let me just check their profile real quick. They're into
Yeah,
show choir, I was into theater, and so I was like, you know what? I think this is gonna work actually.
this could work.
So
Yeah.
yeah. And so kind of just diving a little bit deeper, what should students be looking for when they're cleaning up their profiles? What type of content, messaging, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think you start with the obvious stuff, right? If there's anything that's questionable activity that you've done, even things that you were just really in the moment and you snapped a picture of you doing something, having a clear vision of that when you're not in the moment now, to go back and say, like, is that a real reflection of who you are? Deleting the things like that. Anything that's questionable activity, illegal activity. I find this a lot that you're looking at someone's post or something, and they're doing something that is legal where they live, but they're looking at going out of state, uh, coming to a different state, and the laws are different. And so you got to think about like, is it right for me to be showing that I can do this, even though I'm allowed to do it? And so you just kind of got to think about the culture that's on campus. We talk a lot with students about finding the right fit for campus, and part of that is that if you're into something or if you want to show that, you may want to see like that school's not a right for you. They're doing the reverse of that. They're looking at their campus culture and saying, based on what we see on your Instagram profile or on your Facebook page, or on your X account or something like, is this the type of student that would fit in well here on campus?
Yeah, and I mean, you talked about it already with, finding a roommate. If, oh, this person looks like they enjoy all my same stuff, and then you get to meet them and they're like, yeah, actually, I haven't liked that stuff for like 3 years now at this point. It's like you want it to be, up to date with just who you are.
Yeah, and you don't think about it, but if your posts are a bunch of you at a concerts and doing stuff at night, and you start to have this like vision of being a night owl, but it's really just your fun life, and 6 out of the week you're a morning person, you like taking 7, 8 a.m. classes and stuff. You get into that room, small space, and you got someone who's thinking you're a night owl, you're going to be up late with them and stuff, and you know, alarms going off at 4 a.m. or something. They're gonna have some problems with that.
And so, Jason, what like platforms should these students be checking? Like, is it just their Facebook and Instagram? Do people go deeper than that? What's that situation look like?
I mean, it's really everything. The advent of AI has made a lot of this stuff kind of rise to the top that maybe you didn't think about. Um, Schools are more tech savvy. I've even seen some schools that have elicited students in like criminal justice programs, in tech and media programs and things, to facilitate their research of incoming students and things like that because it's a good experience for those students in those majors. And so
Hmm.
it you're not having to outsmart a 60-year-old person who can barely turn on their iPhone type of situation. You may be up against some pretty stiff talent there when it comes to looking at those things. So you got to look at even like ghost accounts and sub accounts if you have those. You think they're not connected. You think these people won't find them, and I'm telling you, they're pretty good. They might. Comments made on discussion boards. A lot of people forget that Reddit and Discord can be publicly searchable. You also have to remember there's moles out there, and so there may be people in your profile that even though your profile is private or something, they may give other accounts or other people, access to that by virtue of this whole intertwined friend network.
Yeah, I'm a big Reddit user. And not that I had like anything like illegal or anything, but I definitely had like some embarrassing just like skincare Reddit posts. And I'm like, I don't think I need this site to be publicly available for
I've
people to see.
I'm with you there. I've made some comments in the heat of the moment that it's like backtrack going, oh, well, I probably shouldn't have said that.
And so what does like a clean profile look like just from a college admissions perspective?
Yeah, I would say number one thing is it is possible to be too clean. Uh, a lot of admissions reps, even just in the tech industry, when we start talking about looking through different social profiles and doing social research and stuff, there's a term called sterile profiles. Sterile profiles are just obviously either faked to begin with, they're bot accounts, or they're people that are trying to be clean. And so then you start getting into like, what are they hiding? Sometimes what I don't know is worse than what I do know, and so you create hesitation there. So you still want to showcase who you are. You want to be you and just be you in the most positive light possible. And so if you are really politically motivated, on any side of the aisles, uh, if that's who you are, if that makes you happy, if that's the thing that kind of defines you, that's okay. Just be that so that other people can look at that and say, that's for me, that's not for me. And the goal really is to be human. If everything is AI generated images, you're going to have problems. And like I said, if it's sterile, like if it's just here's a family picture, and then 6 months later you post another family picture, it's like, yeah, there's a lot that probably happened in that 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the same applies, I mean, just to the whole college application process anyway, is that they want to see your personality at the end of the
Yeah.
day. Yeah. And so,
And
I
you
mean,
can't be afraid for someone to say it's not for you. In this process, there's 8,000 schools nationwide. If one of them's not a good fit for you for whatever reason, um, that's not the end of the world, right? So
mhm.
I think a lot of students kind of get pigeonholed into this one college is the only place for me, and I know it's a problem. Like when we talk about them in college planning about finding the right fit, we've gone to that before. You really need to say like there's a lot of schools that have a lot of commonality to them. So if one ends up just not being that right place, it's okay. There's other ones out
Hmm.
there. That's why you apply to multiple schools.
Yeah, I mean, in the perfect fit. kind of goes both ways. Like almost like you're sometimes dodging a bullet. If the college is like, we don't think you're a right fit here, you don't want to try and like force yourself to fit what they're looking for too. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. And so kind of going on with this same line, how can students like use their social media profiles to stand out to colleges and to show their personality?
Yeah, because it can be a really powerful tool to, showcase kind of who you are. We have a tool on our website, Activities Resume, that's great for kind of keeping track of the things that you've done while you were in high school, activities, awards, occupation, even like keeping track of your jobs so that you can showcase. And we talk about showcasing, who you are through what you put on there. And there's times where, maybe you put this job on one scholarship application, but you don't put it on another. And social can really kind of help you build that kind of personal brand of who you are. And so it's okay to go out there and show, a bunch of pictures of you at, rock concerts and, that's your genre of music and that's your people and, the college that's going to be out there is going to look at that and say, that's the product. Not to like, I hate to put people in that thing, but that's the product we want to buy.
Hmm.
That's the environment that we've created and that what fits best on our shelves. And it's a good analogy to just think about like how you fit into that stuff. I'd also say like social is not the first place that schools will look. They're not gonna take every applicant and just kind of jump out there and start crawling your feeds. But it's often the last place that they look. And so this is one of those things that you've got to realize that if social media is the reason that you did get something from a scholarship or admissions perspective, or that you didn't get it from a scholarships or admissions perspective, it's usually that something in there was kind of just the last straw in the to tip the scale. And
Hmm.
so you just kind of have to really look at it as I've already given them a good picture of who I am. Does this keep saying that message? Does it keep perpetuating, whatever that is that I'm building?
Yeah. And I like what you brought up too about building the brand, building your personal brand. Because I feel like a lot of times people think like, oh, that's like if I want to be an influencer, I have to build a personal
Right.
brand or start a business. But really, like we talked about, as social media becomes more of a big part of our lives, like your personal brand is what you'll show to jobs, to colleges, to meet new people. So yeah.
I, and everyone's looking at it. You bring up the occupation and jobs and that stuff, and I know a lot of employers that are looking at it saying, are they going to be a fit for our culture? I've even had some larger companies that I've talked to, people that are in HR and stuff there, that have talked about social connections. So they're actually planning, if we bring in this person, they're very much like existing employee A, B, and C, but
Hmm.
not like D, E, and F. So we want to strategize where we put you in your first cubicle when you come in here because we want you to be around the people that you might have things in common with. And schools are very much like that. They've invested a lot in software and stuff to do the whole roommate matching types of things and stuff like that. And some of those things are even bringing in social media profiles, so they're able to kind of tap that into that equation of like who might you be a good roommate with.
Yeah. And so let's talk about what if, say, a student doesn't want their social media to be seen? Is switching to a private profile enough?
Yeah, I mean, if you're really just wanting to hide everything, private's obviously better than public. But I'd caution people not to think that it's bulletproof. There's a couple pieces of software and stuff that can kind of ingrain itself in there. There's some data sites and stuff that have crawled private accounts and have put private information behind a paywall. So if the school's paying for some of those things, even though you think you're protected, you're kind of not. You also have to remember that a lot of the, well, not a lot, but like some of the networks, they basically cut it off. So if I've been public for the last 3 years and today I go in and change my account status to private, it doesn't make the last 3 years private. It leaves that
Mm,
stuff public. And so if you get into this, kind of bad space of thinking like all I have to do is flip the switch and then I'm safe. You're not going to look at those types of things and you're run into the same problems because you're just not aware of what was posted years in the
Hmm.
past that is still public. And then I talked a little about this before, but there are moles out there. There are fake accounts, there's bot accounts and stuff that are designed to look like your friends. And so you get a random friend request from my buddy Joe, and I'm not thinking about it. Like, of course, I'm going to be friends with Joe, and I tap it, and it's really not Joe. It's this computer software that's recreated a friend's account and tried to get in there. So it's really hard to kind of weed those things out, especially with a lot of admissions counselors will go out there. I don't say a lot, but like I know admissions counselors that go out there and try to connect with people on a preferred network. So they have Facebook and they have Instagram and they have X and they have Reddit and Discord and all this stuff. Because if that's what you are, they want to connect with you where you are. Well,
Hmm.
you have to remember that you make your profile private, you're not hiding it from them. You're just hiding it from their colleagues. And
Yeah.
so you just kind of have to kind of always think about what is the network that you're hiding it from, but also what is the network that it's still exposed to.
Yeah. So you would definitely recommend still cleaning up, even if you go private.
Even if you're going to go private, it's a good idea to take the time to look back and see because yeah, you just never know.
Yeah. And how often would you say students should be doing this kind of cleanup process?
Yeah, I think annually is probably the most common that I see is people just pick a month where they know they don't have a lot going on. Students oftentimes will use some time in the summer, a day or two or something like that, kind of just to go through it. But the big thing is just to make sure that you do it before your junior year, and again before your senior year, just to kind of touch up on it. But that's when you're really going to be in the on the attention of these kinds of
Hmm.
admissions, scholarships, things like that. So that's when it's kind of key for students and stuff to do. But there's a saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and so I think that's a very true statement for this. Is that the sooner you get started to kind of go through these things and clean up your profiles, the easier it is. You just think of procrastinating for a test, right? Like it's a lot easier to study every day or every week throughout the semester instead of waiting and then the night before the exam trying to
Hmm.
remember everything from the book.
Yeah. Yeah. And okay, as someone who has a giant digital footprint, I mean, I grew up with the internet, thousands of posts across multiple platforms. Are there any tools or shortcuts to like kind of make this process easier? Because it can kind of seem like a lot sometimes.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You're talking to a guy with thousands of different accounts on the same network. So, and that's just one network. So yeah, you start getting into that, it can be kind of a challenge for sure. There are some sites out there and stuff that will help you. Uh, almost, well, not almost every one of them that I know that I would even recommend are all paid services, and I think that's a hard thing for a student to do. If you're in the situation where you have to pay to clean this stuff up, you needed to make some better choices earlier on, and that's where we go back to that saying, pound of cure, right?
Hmm.
Um, so we really want to try to avoid paying for those things. The nice thing is that there's some AI chatbots and stuff that can really help you too, just to kind of at least find some things that are in there. Uh, I was messing around with AI bots not too long ago, and I came up with this one was it was just asked it to act as an admissions rep at a specific school. So at Harvard or at University of Nebraska Lincoln or at Wesleyan or whatever, and say, act as this school. Tell me 5 reasons why, and then put your name in there from your city because there's going to be multiple John Smiths out there and there's multiple
Hmm.
Jasons out there, and so you just kind of have to give it some sort of parameter or something, but ask it why that would not be a good student. If you're using account-based things like Gemini, you can actually just say why I would not be a good candidate for that school or something, and you'll be surprised at what it comes back with and say, this is why I don't think you'd be good, because that might lend you to say, oh, this is what it's looking at when it's saying I'm not going to be a good candidate for the scholarship or a candidate for the school or something. You can kind of go to that post and say, okay, well, maybe I need to take that down.
Yeah. And we've been talking about, cleaning up your own personal social profiles and things and ways to do it. But what if somebody else posts something that involves you in a negative way? Because that's a whole other ballgame. You can't really control that
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, you can't control everything and even in the background, I've been in the background of pictures going like, okay, well, can you and this is why I'd say it's a tough situation. Usually you just ask them, can you take it down? I wasn't meant to be in that picture. I just don't want the tag on there. If it's
Hmm.
a really bad image of you or something, you might ask them to take it down. Most of the social sites have ways that you can, even if the person who originally posted it's not responding or not able or willing to do, they have a way that you can submit a request and ask to have that tag removed. Some of them make it super easy where you can just say like remove the tag of me, and then at least it's kind of, not out there. The hard thing is that like that helps a little bit, but again, it's not a complete situation. AI has really changed the game. Its ability to find faces is kind of astronomical. I mean, just think of if you have an iPhone or an Android phone, the native Photos apps and how good it is at finding pictures of people throughout their age. I have kids, I've
Hmm.
got pictures of my kids from when they were babies all the way to high school, and it tags them all the way along the way. And it's kind of crazy
That's
how
crazy.
good that technology has got at figuring out who's who. So, um, it's just an unfortunate thing that you can do as much as you can, but unfortunately, you are always at a little bit of um, at a disadvantage depending on who's posting what and who's in your friend
Hmm.
groups and things like that.
And I mean, if, worst comes to worst, you can't get it taken down, it's still up there. What should you do if somebody asks you about it?
I think you just be prepared. This was a situation where, I was not expecting to have my picture taken, and I've asked to have it taken down because it's not reflective of who I am anymore. Um, you know, Whatever it may be, sometimes you just have to be prepared with how to kind of handle that. I was in forensics when I was in high school, and so when we were doing debate preps and stuff, like it's not just preparing what I was going to say, but I probably spent most of my time preparing for when they have this point or when they ask this question or something. How am I going to respond to that? And this is kind of that situation, just knowing that that image is out there, knowing that you can't do anything about it, and saying, okay, this is how I'm going to respond if it's
Hmm.
asked, and then just remember not to ever bring it up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some people will get it in their head, and then it just like comes out in an interview, and I'm like, oh, it's so close.
Just don't bring it up. Don't bring it up.
Just don't. You're gonna have to find a way to like remember but forget.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Jason, one final question for you. What's just one final piece of advice you would give to students about just their online presence?
Ooh, yeah, getting that down to one is kind of hard. So I'll do two. One, think before you post.
Hmm.
We used to be I don't know if this resonates as well with the younger audience anymore, but we used to say, don't put it online if you wouldn't put it on a billboard. So you just kind of have to think about, a lot of people are going to see this. And so if you don't want it out there, don't put it out there.
Hmm.
And take a time too. Comments like we talked earlier on. There are comments that I've made. I'm sure there's probably comments that you've made on posts, on friends' posts, on Discord groups and Reddit threads and things like. I'm sure there's things that you wish you didn't say in those comments, and so um, right now today, when you post something, type it into the box, reread it, think about what it says before you click the post button. Um, because even if you delete those things, it's the digital world, it's there
Hmm.
somewhere. Um, the other thing is put as much thought into what you post as you would your resume. It's this day and age, it's not so much about the one page, two page, what you write on a piece of paper when you're looking at employment applications, when you're looking at scholarship applications, when you're talking about admissions. There's so much more that goes into that, and then your social brand, your social posts and stuff are part of that. So, um, invest some time and just be considerate about what you're doing out there.
Yeah. Well, I think that just about wraps it up. Thank you, Jason,
Awesome.
again for sharing your expertise.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you ever need help with anything college planning related, contact any of our Education Quest offices for free help. You can find our contact information as well as the sign up for the weekly Countdown to College email filled with college tips and tricks on our homepage on educationquest.org. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.